Hi again. Back at it with another video. Um, got to my first one. Was a bit scary, but now it's time to explain basically what the hell I was talking about there. If you are clueless, please rewatch my or not rewatch, sorry, watch my first video. And here I want to explain what I mean by the three eyes principle. You can think of it like the Roman numeral 3, where it's like three eyes in it, not just not these two eyes. And I want to just briefly talk about them and how you can start to think about this concept. And if you guys are interested, you can ask me more personal questions, but otherwise, I'll just keep going and maybe one day I'll pique your interest. So, the three I's are basically an acronym for the three words identify, implement, and increment. So, I've kind of thought about it in the spur of the moment, but then I refined it, and I think a lot of it makes sense. It's neatly packed together, and the order matters. The each one of the eyes, I guess you could say, matters, and you can't skip these things because it's like a link in a chain. If you take out one of the links, the chain just falls apart. There's no motion. So the first one would be that the identify the identify link is straightforward, but sometimes it can be a bit tricky. So you have to see the problem before you can tackle it, right? Like that's the gist of the thing. You have to know what you want to undertake. In some areas, in some disciplines, they call this vision, and the vision is also like a long-term plan. You don't need a long-term plan, but you sort of want to know if there is even a problem to solve. So you have to identify the problem. I'll give you a very easy one right off the top of my head, and that's weight loss. Now, how do you go about identifying weight loss? A lot of people will always say, "Oh, I'm so fat, I'm so this, I'm so that." But are they, or do they need to worry about it? That's really up to them to decide. But you really want to phrase or frame the problem that you're trying to tackle. So, if you're 5'10" and you weigh over 200 pounds and you're not athletic, very likely that you're on the right track with the weight loss. So you've identified a problem. If you're 5'6" and you weigh 100 pounds and you still think you're overweight, you've identified a problem, but I don't think it's what you think it is. So it's tricky to just say, oh, identify the problem. That's basically what I'm getting at here, because a problem can take many forms, and depending on the angle you're coming at it, it might not be worth your time and effort, because identification in itself isn't tough. There's always something to do, and if you're one of those people who thinks there isn't really much left for you to do, I have news for you. There is something left for you to do. So in that sense, identification for you is easy. So you can just, I don't know, ask somebody. They'll let you know. So yeah, identification comes in is a tricky problem to solve, but that's why it comes first, right? Like you don't want to be like halfway through doing something and then you realize that you didn't even pose the right question. Very, very important in many disciplines, in many workplaces, and just in general. Asking the right questions is sometimes the, the most critical part of a problem, because should we be solving some problem? There's always a problem to solve, and like when you go outside of your purview and little microcosm, uh, problems grow exponentially. In computers, if we weren't smart about using our computational resources, we would have never achieved the speeds and the kind of performance that everyone's accustomed to now. And we would just be stuck solving unnecessary problems just because we found some problems to solve. Um, so yeah, identification is a real thing. Uh, some pro tips, I guess, on how to identify a problem would be: ask people around you if you're not sure. What you think of yourself is an opinion. What others think of you is a science. Take that loosely, but the main idea is that you alone aren't as good of a judge of your own character as your people that you're around. If you think you're just such a nice, wonderful person and everybody at work thinks you're an asshole, they might be onto something. Now, if you're telling them to do their job and they don't like you for it, that's one thing. But again, there is something about you that's rubbing them the wrong way. If your girlfriend, boyfriend, partner finds something to argue with you about over and over again, and you think you're a very easygoing person, you have to cross-check your opinions of yourself. A lot of times we have very high opinions of ourselves, so it makes identification kind of a tough problem. It's tough to look at yourself honestly because we are so involved with ourselves. We are all we know, in a sense. Like everything else outside can be somewhat manipulated. Some people can be lying. We might misunderstand the universe. But we generally feel very, 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 very confident about ourselves, and we're very attached to ourselves. Like the self-preservation is probably one of the most basic instincts there is. So, you can't let yourself run away with yourself, but sometimes you got to listen to yourself. So, wow, you thought I couldn't talk about identify a lot, but there you go. I think one more point I'll add to an identification step helps me a lot with everything. Ask who, where, what, why, how much, what for, what is it worth. Don't ever ask yourself a yes or no question. Don't go like, should I lose weight? That's the wrong way to ask. Should I lose weight? Okay, start with that. What is it going to take? How much? What is it worth? What do I weigh? What stands in my way? What is it going to take? And in some cases, in most cases, if you're answering yes, probably it's worth it. You could still be getting carried away, but that's okay. Like, you gotta try things. You can't just know things before you start them, right? So a simple yes or no question should never be the point of initiation. You should always cross-check with what it's going to take out of you, because all of this stuff takes something out of you. Whew. Okay, so if you've identified a problem, you're set with a problem that you want to solve, tackle, a problem that you feel is going to help you become a better person. The next step is to implement a solution. This one also seems pretty straightforward, but it's a very tricky thing when you're just starting out. And now this is where kind of the lines between the second and the third eye can get, it can be open to interpretation, but my opinion is to never let yourself get bogged down with definitions, classifications. Just do things in sequential order, or at least step by, not necessarily like chronological order, but just do things and then tie them back together and look at your results over time. Don't look at A then B. Look at A, B, X, Y, square root, a lot of this other stuff. Then come back and see if you've improved over time. So your implementation is going to depend on a scientific principle, which is experimentation and innovation. You have to refine your strategy. So you have to implement a plan. If we're going to roll with the weight loss analogy, you want to say that you're going to eat less. Just start with something like that. Just something. Don't go with like, oh, I'm going to buy this weight loss belt, I'm going to buy this sweatsuit, then I'm going to buy a treadmill, a bike, 3 sneakers, $80 shorts, and then I'm going to buy all these supplements. Setting yourself up for failure right there, because you're overwhelming yourself, and you know damn well that in your heart of hearts, probably you do know that you are just looking for excuses to fail. The more points of failure you add to your plan, the more likely you are to fail. Again, if anybody does computer programming here, the more code you write, the more bugs you'll introduce to your code, because we are not very diligent thinkers and we'll forget things. Things will get buried under the surface, and we'll be then struggling to find these little kinks that we put into our own plans. So start simple. You don't have to start dead simple like with one thing, but start with something that's manageable. Or if you know yourself, right? Like if you know what kind of person you are. Some people are very good at doing things cold turkey, and they'll just cut everything out. Like they'll cut all the sugar out, calories out. They'll go to the gym and they'll just be so honed in on this process that it will work. I did it like that. It worked. I also did it the other way. That worked. And this is why I'm telling you that there is no one way to do things. But I have also failed. If you've picked up on what I said there, the detail was that I've done it a few times. So it didn't just, it wasn't like a clear-cut solution where like I implemented something and then it worked. So your implementation is going to strongly rely on your iteration. If you do not repeat the things you're implementing over and over and over again, and iteratively, not just repetitively, which means like you're doing the same thing over and over again. No, you want to do things and then kind of evaluate them, do things and then change some things around if needed. If there's no need, like if things are working, like look into improving them, but you have to keep adding things, keep refining things, and you have to keep repeating things. The repetition is still a huge part of it. It just doesn't need to be blind, because you will, this quite simply, you will forget. There's an amazing line in the movie Elizabeth. I don't know if who has seen it. It's quite old now, but still, I think, a pretty great watch with Kate Blanchett. So they're basically trying to overthrow her historically, and she picks up on it because of her what's his name, astute aide. I forgot what his name was. Like a very historical figure, and they round up a lot of the traitors, the people who were staging to overthrow her. I think maybe even kill her on a night, and they kind of get to the head of the coup, and he, in like the last bout of self-defense, says, "Go ahead, make me a martyr. People will remember." So he's trying to make them feel defeated. That like, yeah, they can get rid of him, but everybody else will still fight on for the cause. And Elizabeth's aide approaches him and says, like, kind of in a very dismal way, "No, they will forget." And the reaction of the main guy, of the kind of traitor, was very amazing, beautiful, because you could see that he understood that the aide was right. Like that, man, that the people aren't as devout as you are about a topic you are passionate about, and people are very forgetful. We're all very forgetful. It's just something. It's a part of our nature. It's a part of our survival instincts. Because look, man, I mean, if we couldn't get over some very very tragic things in our lives, like loss of loved ones, or I don't know, I think that's a very harsh one that everybody eventually goes through. So if we couldn't do that, I don't know how our species would fare, or how sane we would be. But anyway, you get the idea that you can be very passionate about something today. Tomorrow, you can still be very passionate about it. But make a note for yourself and remind yourself, like check up on it in a month or two, even half a year later. You might not even remember what the hell you were talking about. And that's because passion and excitement are motivators, but they're not perpetrators. They will not carry you to the finish line. Only by diligent practice, diligent iteration, diligent evaluation will you be able to adjust and adapt to actually yourself. Yeah, it's. I know I got in very deep with the first point, and then a couple others I just skimmed along, but there's more to come. But the idea is simple. I'll tie it all in together for you with a very, again, this weight loss is just a very easy analogy that everybody can get on board with. And that's, if you want to lose weight, first ask yourself, do you need it? Do you want it? Are you prepared to go to be hungry? Okay, so here you go, because I've done it. I'll tell you, you're not going to lose weight without feelings of hunger. At some point, you don't have to be perpetually hungry, but the fact that you have to change your routine is a guarantee, and you're gonna 100% you're gonna feel discomfort. You're either gonna feel discomfort from the exercise because you're out of shape and you're gonna start exercising, or you're gonna feel discomfort from changing your eating habits, reducing sugar, maybe eliminating it, eating less junk food, relying on vegetables and things, and not eating late at night, not drinking too much, blah blah blah. It's going to be it's going to have a real impact on your not well-being, but satisfaction, on your quality of life in the beginning, and then it's going to have a real impact on your personality. Be prepared, because everything is like that. Oh, you want to become a millionaire, right? Sure. Nobody just throws around $1 million bills on the street for you to pick up. You have to go out there and you have to invest yourself into it. So identify a problem and then implement a plan. Start with something. The best news I can give you here is that failure is perfect. That's when you really know that you're doing the right thing, that you're on the right path. You'll start working out, but not changing your diet. You'll notice that you're sweating, huffing and puffing, coming home, taking a shower, just like dying in the gym, but the pounds aren't really coming off. They'll come off a little bit, but you're not where you want it to be. There's no fucking way you're getting a six-pack without affecting your diet. So you're gonna be like, it's not working. That's the wrong way to go about it. It's not working this way. Iterate. So now you've implemented a plan where you're still exercising. Maybe you'll exercise less, but you'll reduce all sugar. Just don't eat sugar. What you'll notice is that you're doing better. You're not there yet, let's say, but you're doing better. If you want to think about it logically and implement scientific methods here, is sheer amount of calories. Like if you're eating the same thing minus the sugar, like you're cutting out probably a good 300 to 500 calories, maybe more, out of your diet. Every month, 500 times 7 a week, that's a pound. So you can easily be taking a pound off without even realizing it. So you could say, okay, I'm happy with this, I'm gonna keep at it. But after a while, you're gonna maybe realize, like, shit, sometimes I still crave these nice little things, right? So now you can start making little iterative improvements to your plan where you're like, okay, look, once a week I'll eat whatever the hell I want, but because I'm gonna accrue that caloric, not deficit, but the opposite of deficit, which is surplus. Surplus. You have to spread that out over your week, right? So that you don't just bounce back and forth, because everybody knows the biggest problem with weight loss is, first of all, the diet, and second of all, yo-yo dieting, which is people come back to their old way of doing things. They forget how it is. They forget how they used to be. They forget that they were overweight. They forget how it felt to be huffing and puffing just by taking a few extra steps. And so you're iterating now. Now you're adding things now, or sometimes you're gonna try something else. Maybe you're gonna change your calorie sources. Maybe more from protein, more from carbs. I'm not saying iteration by any means. I'm not saying iteration means trend hopping. Like today you're doing paleo, then tomorrow you're doing Sasquatch diet, then you're doing anteater diet. Like, that's not iteration. Iteration is like gradually practicing what you're doing and then seeing where you have flexibility, where you can make changes, where you can make some adjustments, sometimes making them, sometimes not making them. And over time, you should notice that if you've kept up with the second and third eye consistently, you've gotten up, you've said, you've repeated something, you've done, you repeated it, you've done it every day, you'll notice that you have improved since last year. And nobody wants to wait for improvement. Everybody wants it now, buy now, do this now, now. Hey man, you have your whole life to live. Why now? What are you gonna do tomorrow? Practice patience and practice like incrementation. Step by step, do things. Yes, you don't have to just do diet the whole freaking time. Like, learn a new language, learn a new skill, improve your weightlifting capabilities, find a spouse, start a new business, take chances, and do things. But do them methodically. Don't just hop from one thing to another. Don't just go from one YouTube video to the next one until you hear something you like, and then you just are back at it again. Break the loops, but keep the loops. Fuck, now I'm starting to sound very mystical. Anyway, I hope it helps. I'm always open to questions. Ask me anything, anytime. I'll respond whenever I can. And I hope that the changes you make in your life are positive in others as well. See ya.